So you want to read more books? Well, you come to the right place, because approximately 3 years ago I was reading about 10 books a year, but now I'm reading approximately 75 books a year, and most of the books I read are chunky. So what did I do to revolutionize how I approach reading, and how did I go from reading 10 books to now more than 70 books a year? Well, let's talk about it. But first, I know people have very different opinions about what's the purpose behind reading. A lot of people say that it's better to read 10 books a year and really enjoy them and contemplate about their deeper meanings, and I definitely think that that is a valid point. However, for this video, I'll just focus on how you can read more. And you know what? You don't have to follow all of my tips if you think some of them are a bit too much. Okay, let's get into it. Firstly, when I wanted to read more, I started to think about reading as a discipline. I know some people think that that is maybe a bit too serious, but it is the mindset I want you to adopt. What do you do when you want to become good at any discipline? Well, firstly, you take the discipline seriously and you invest time and effort into it. It is the same for reading. If you want to become a person who reads maybe 100 pages or 200 pages a day, then you need to have discipline. So, how did I do that? Well, I started by setting myself a goal that I would read 50 pages every day, and then I invested time into doing that every day until I started loving reading. Now, if you aren't used to reading, then 50 pages a day is a lot. But I would recommend you to start by setting a goal to read maybe 10 pages every day for a month, or maybe 20 pages every day, and then stick to that. The reason why that is so important is because by doing something every day, you start to develop a habit, and you should hopefully start to enjoy reading more and more as you read more and more. Initially, as with any discipline, reading 10 or 20 pages a day might not be enjoyable, but if you want to get better at reading, then you need to invest time and effort into it. And as you get more used to reading more, you can slowly start to increase the page count you read every day. Now, if you miss a day or two, then that is fine. This is not a competition, but the whole point is that you're trying to teach yourself a habit to read every day. Also, make yourself a hot drink and put your phone away in a different room so you can really focus on the book. So that is my first point. Treat reading as a discipline. Secondly, this one is not as obvious, but consider investing in a Kindle. I know reading on Kindle is not everyone's favorite, but studies have shown that people with e-readers read more, and you can adjust the font to your liking, and you can hold the book with one hand, which is fantastic. Also, you can read in the dark, and the awesome thing about Kindle is that if you maybe read 20 pages on your Kindle, then you can go out and open the Kindle app on your phone, and the Kindle will automatically go to your most recent page. So you can basically read anywhere. Reading on Kindle has definitely helped me read more, so if you can get over not holding a physical book, then that is the way to go. Thirdly, you can apply some easy speed reading techniques which I have learned. These techniques are extremely easy and can be used by everyone, and a lot of people say that you will automatically double your reading speed by adopting these techniques. So what are they? So one of the reasons why people don't read faster is because our eyes have a tendency to read maybe 3 or 4 words and then go back a couple words and then read some more words and then we go back again. So our eyes do not go into a straight line. Our eyes actually go forward and backwards when we read. So if we can stop our eyes from rereading some words, then that will automatically increase our reading speed. So how do we stop this? There are 2 steps to this technique, and you can either just do the first step or you can do both. Firstly, you need to grab a pen or anything pointy, or just use your finger, and you put it underneath the word you are reading. Then when you read, you move the pen as you are reading, making sure that the pen only goes forward, not back. As you get used to this kind of reading, you can move the pen faster, and that will help you read faster. So that is a very simple trick to get you to read faster. Put your finger underneath the words you are reading and only move the fingers forward. Also, this technique is very easy if you have a pen and a Kindle, since you can hold the Kindle in one hand and the pen in the other. However, if you want to level up this technique, then you can do this. When we read, we actually don't need to move our eyes across the whole page to read a sentence. We often tend to start looking at the left hand of the page and then move our eyes to the very right end of the page. However, what you can do is to put your finger on the second word on the sentence, and then you read until you get to the second last word. You still read the whole sentence because your eyes does register the whole sentence, but you save a bit of time by not moving your eyes from one end to the very other end. Lastly, one thing that makes us read slower is the fact that we often pronounce every word aloud in our mind, or we might even whisper, and that also slows our reading down. When you read, you don't have to read aloud atmosphere or fantasy to register the word. So a simple trick to stop you from reading these words aloud in your head or whispering them is just to put some gum in your mouth. So those are 3 simple speed reading techniques you can adopt to read faster. Fourthly, we have audiobooks. Now, I know some people do not consider listening to audiobooks as reading, and I'm not going to go into that discussion. However, what I will say is that you can take in a whole book and comprehend the story just as much with audiobooks as with physical reading. Moreover, I would argue that sometimes audiobooks are superior because sometimes the narrator will bring so much life to the story. I do consider myself having read a book if I have listened to it on audio, and by listening to audiobooks, you can read so much more when you are commuting, cleaning, going for a walk. My only advice for audiobooks is that I would recommend actually doing something while listening to them. Go on a walk or clean the dishes, because if I just sit down, then my eyes will usually start to wander all across the room and I'll get distracted. So I actually need to be doing something to fully concentrate on the audio. I'm not sure if I'm the only one who experienced that. So do consider adding audiobooks to your life to help you read more. The 5th point is a bit of a weird one, but it was very helpful for me, especially in the beginning of my reading journey, and that is to read popular books. Now hear me out. When I started getting into reading, I found it incredibly exciting and helpful to know that if I read the Wheel of Time series, or Mistborn, or the Dark Tower series, then I would be able to join a thriving online community and discuss these books with people. One of my highlights at the beginning of my reading journey was to read the Wheel of Time books and then go to Daniel Green's channel or Mike's book reviews channel and hear them discuss and talk about these books. It added another layer of enjoyment to my reading experience, hearing them analyze and talk about these stories. Moreover, it just helps you process the story in a different way. You can also find a reading buddy or join a read-along so you can connect with other readers. Talking about books definitely makes the experience more interesting and memorable. I didn't know anyone 3 years ago that read fantasy, so I turned to BookTube. But if you have friends in your life that do read, then reading buddies is also really great. My 6th and last point is an obvious one, but hear me out. Read books you want to read and stop reading books that are not working for you. The reason why I'm saying this is because initially I was a bit hesitant to fully indulge in fantasy only, because I felt that maybe I should also read more classics or more non-fiction books. But fantasy is my favorite genre, and there's no reason why I shouldn't read books that I enjoy. At least I'm reading, right? Secondly, learn to stop reading books that are not working for you. I have been really bad at stopping reading books that I don't enjoy, but I'm finally learning to do so. I don't DNF books often, but I usually will try to read at least 100 pages, and if the book doesn't work for me, then it's okay to stop reading. Remember, you're not in a competition to complete a set amount of books. As long as you read, then you're fine. So those are my 6 tips that helped me go from reading 10 books a year to 75 books a year. I read every day to get a habit. I bought a Kindle. I adopted speed reading techniques. I listened to audiobooks. I joined the online book community, and I only read books that I want to read. But please, just try to enjoy reading. It's not a competition. So that is it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and a special thanks to my Patreons. I really appreciate it.